Where is it? Oh, got that. Okay, backpack. Science project. Got it. Sorry, you can't eat breakfast today. See you later. Bye. Diane's story about the deportation of her parents is heartbreakingly common. There are more than 11 million undocumented immigrants in America, and every day an average of 17 children are placed in state care after their parents are detained and deported, according to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Today, we're surrounded by a lot of talk about immigration reform. Millions of undocumented workers who live among us only hope for a chance to get citizenship. Behind every one of those headlines, there was a family, a mother, a father, and an innocent child. A real life story that's both deeply painful and rarely told. This is In the Country We Love by Diane Guerrero. One moment. That's all it takes for your entire world to split apart. And for me, that moment came when I was 14. I returned home from school to discover that my two hardworking immigrant parents had been taken away. In one irreversible instant, in the space of a single breath, life as I'd known it was forever altered, deported. Long before I fully understood what that word meant, I'd learned to dread it, with every ring of my family's doorbell, with every police car passing on the street. A horrifying possibility hung into the air. And my mom and dad tried desperately to keep our family together. They pleaded, they planned, they prayed, they turned to others for help. And in the end, none of their efforts were enough to keep them here in the country we love. Now, my mom and dad were both raised in Colombia and hadn't planned to even come to the United States. Mommy was the fifth eldest of 7 and was raised in Palmira, a rural town in the southwestern part of the country. As impoverished as many Colombians are, nearly 1/3 of residents live below the poverty line. They've maintained a spirit of resilience. There's an optimism that things can and will improve. And that's what my mother's parents clung to, that belief. They had none of the basics that many of us take for granted. Yet they held on to their desire to give their sons and daughters a leg up. For 3 decades, they worked their fingers to the bone, harvesting sugarcane in the fields. They used part of their income on schooling. And yet, in Colombia, getting a degree doesn't bring the same opportunity as it can in America. Jobs are scarce. And the economy is dysfunctional. It doesn't matter how admirable your work ethic is or your education if you can't put either to use. And of course, there's a major economic and social divide. For those who don't come from money, it's almost impossible to become successful. My dad, who grew up a few streets over from my mother in Palmira, survived his own series of heartaches. He was 14 on the day his father died suddenly of an aneurysm, and he was forced to help with his family's expenses. He was the 7th of 8 children, began picking beans in the field, even as he continued his studies. After he lost his mother, my father set aside school altogether to work full-time in the fields. Now, when you're the child of undocumented immigrants, you learn to keep your mouth shut. Someone wants to know where your parents are from, it's none of their frickin' business. Like everyone else in our little secret network, we followed the first commandment of life under the radar. Do nothing that might bring the cops to your doorstep. Nuestra situación no está resuelta. Our situation isn't settled. Which is why the simple ring of our bells was all it took to make us panic. When my papi drove, he followed the traffic laws carefully. No running yellow lights, no switching lanes without signaling, and definitely no speeding. He didn't want to take the chance that we'd get pulled over by the police. That would immediately blow our cover. Now, in the fall of 1997, Mommy connected with a lawyer in Boston, who reached back to a lawyer in New Jersey who pulled her file. We still have your paperwork, but it was never actually submitted to immigration. You'll just have to give us some updates, and then we can get started on your case again. That was years ago that you filed those papers, honey. There's a whole new staff there now. Mommy was tired of biding time. She was beyond ready for our circumstances to shift, so she forged ahead. When I arrived to the front of the house, I immediately knew something was off. The door was cracked. When I reached the entrance, it was dark. I heard none of the sounds I usually hear after school. No noise from the television, no voices chattering in Spanish, no salsa blasting from the radio. Mommy? Papi? Are you here? Could they be sleeping? Where is everyone? Mommy? Papi, I'm home. Are you guys here? What? Where's... Hello? What do you mean they're gone? Thank you. They're gone? No, they're not gone. What am I gonna do? I need to call somebody. I need to call Oh. Hello? Gloria? My parents have been taken. The police came here and arrested them. Can I stay here with you? So what am I gonna do? I felt weak and abandoned. Minutes later, the phone rang. It was my father. My parents had been taken separately. Mommy had been making dinner and was arrested in the late afternoon while Papi was on his way home from work. Now, the police were already waiting to put him in handcuffs. They surrounded our entire house. And the only way that he and my mommy could have a chance at staying was if a top-level attorney took their case. And we didn't have the money to get a pricey lawyer. Not only had U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement been silent, but I also hadn't received a call from the Massachusetts Child Protective Services. At 14, I've been left on my own. Literally. When the authorities made their choice to detain my parents, no one was bothered to check that a young girl, a minor, a citizen of this country, would be left without a family, without a home, without a way to move forward. We reached the prison in a set of brown brick buildings in the middle of nowhere. Barbed wire fence surrounded the facility. I couldn't believe that my papi, a man who had never jaywalked or ran a red light, had found himself in a place like this. Inside, our purses were thoroughly searched. A guard instructed us on a list of visitation rules. No articles or gifts were to be directly given to the inmates. We were then led to a large windowless area. About 50 others were waiting. A thin, blonde guy, another guard dressed as those assembled. The inmates will now be escorted here shortly. Please remember to observe all facility regulations. Any violation may result in the future suspension of visitation privileges. Ladies and gentlemen, sign in and line up here. Your bags will be thoroughly searched. No cell phones are permitted in the visitation area with the detainees. The detainees. His words hung there, thick and heavy. Weeks later, my mommy had just simply been my mommy. The loving mother who combed my long black hair into a ponytail. And then, on an afternoon I've spent a decade wishing I could undo, mommy had been suddenly labeled as an inmate, a prisoner, a detainee. Hello, my princess. How are you? Don't cry. Baby, please don't cry. I'm sorry, Diane. Mi niña, no llores más. More than 14 years have passed since my mommy and papi were taken. And in a way, I need them more now than I ever did before. Every day, I have new questions about which direction I should take, both in my career and in my personal life. I long for the guidance. I get some of that over the phone, but it's not the same as having them in the room. Because they're in a country where day-to-day existence is so arduous, they're often distracted by the basics of survival. I wish I could tell you my story had been a perfect ending. Such a finale only exists in the make-believe worlds of my childhood. But no matter what, I will only hold on to hope that my family and I will one day be together again in the country we love.